The heavy metal door slid open slowly. Behind it stood rows and rows of men, all dressed the same, all standing still, all watching. There were no smiles. No words. Just eyes. For a moment, it felt like time stopped. A guard whispered quietly, "These are some of the most dangerous criminals in the world." And just like that, you understand, this is not a normal prison. This is CECOT, the Terrorism Confinement Center in El Salvador. A place where many who enter will never leave. But how did a country build something like this? How did El Salvador go from one of the most dangerous places in the world to a place now calling itself one of the safest? To understand that, we have to go back. Back to a time when fear ruled the streets. Back to when San Salvador was known as the murder capital of the world. Years before this prison existed, life in El Salvador was very different. In 2015, the country had one of the highest murder rates ever recorded. Families were afraid to leave their homes. Streets that should be full of life were often empty. People lived carefully, quietly, always watching. This was a low moment in the story. A calm, but heavy kind of calm. The kind where danger is always close, even if you cannot see it. Two powerful gangs controlled much of the country. MS-13 and Barrio 18. These groups were not small. They were highly organized. They had rules, ranks, and systems. They controlled neighborhoods, demanded money, and punished anyone who disobeyed them. Ordinary people were often caught in the middle. Shop owners, workers, families, they all had to follow gang rules just to survive. But this situation did not begin overnight. To understand it, we go even further back. During the Cold War, El Salvador faced deep inequality. Most of the country's land and wealth were controlled by a small number of families. Many people lived in poverty. This led to a civil war. It was a time of fear, loss, and uncertainty. Many people lost their lives. Many children were left without families. Some of those children left the country, searching for safety. They traveled to places like Los Angeles in the United States. But even there, life was not easy. They faced new dangers. New gangs. So they formed their own groups for protection. These groups would later become known as MS-13 and Barrio 18. Over time, these gangs grew stronger. Then something happened that changed everything. Many gang members were sent back to El Salvador. But the country was still recovering from war. It was not ready for what came next. The gangs returned more organized, more powerful, and more dangerous. Slowly, they began to take control. This was a high point in the story. A turning moment. Violence increased. Crime spread. Fear grew. By the time years passed, El Salvador had become one of the most violent countries in the world. In some months, hundreds of people were killed. Families lived in fear. Children grew up surrounded by danger. It felt like there was no way out. But then, something changed. A new leader came into power. Bukele. He made a promise. To take back the country. To stop the gangs. To bring safety back to the streets. This was another turning point. A state of emergency was declared. Thousands of soldiers were deployed. Arrests began. Not small numbers. Thousands. Then tens of thousands. More than 60,000 people were detained in a short time. Many suspected gang members were taken into custody. The government introduced strict measures. Tattoos, which were often linked to gang identity, became part of investigations. Some people supported these actions. Others questioned them. But one thing was clear. The country was changing. Fast. And then came one of the most important moments in this story. The construction of a massive prison. CECOT. A place designed to hold thousands of the country's most dangerous criminals. Located far from the city, surrounded by high walls and heavy security, it was built to stop gangs from operating. To cut off communication. To end their influence. This was not just a prison. It was a system. According to reports, it has hundreds of security cameras, constant surveillance, and strict control over every movement inside. No visitors. No outside contact. For many prisoners, it is a final destination. Now, we return to the present moment. standing in front of that heavy door. The one that slowly opened. Inside, rows of prisoners stood silently. They wore white clothing. Their heads were shaved. They followed strict rules. From the outside, they seemed calm. But the guards reminded us. These were not ordinary individuals. Some had committed serious crimes. Some had been part of powerful gangs. Some were responsible for great harm. Inside CECOT, everything is controlled. Movement is limited. Time is structured. Even court hearings happen through screens, without leaving the prison. Every step is watched. Every action is monitored. The goal is clear. Total control. But as you stand there, looking through the bars, one thought stays in your mind. Is this the price of safety? Or is there more to the story? Because while crime rates have dropped, and people now walk the streets more freely, questions still remain. And behind those walls, thousands of lives continue in silence. The sound of metal echoed as the door closed behind them. Inside CECOT, there is no outside noise. No traffic. No voices from the street. Just the controlled rhythm of a system designed to never fail. As the guards walked forward, every step followed a strict rule. Nothing here was random. Cameras watched from every angle. According to official information, hundreds of cameras track movement at all times. Guards are placed carefully across the prison, watching, waiting, ready. This is a high-security world where nothing is left to chance. Visitors, like the narrator, must pass through many layers before even stepping inside. Personal belongings are taken away. Phones stop working. Signals are blocked. It is like entering a place cut off from the rest of the world. The first checkpoint feels simple. The second feels stricter. By the third, you understand, this place is built differently. Machines scan your body, just like at an airport, but more advanced. Every step is checked again and again. This is not just about keeping people in. It is about making sure nothing goes in. The guards explain that in the past, people tried to smuggle items into prisons using hidden methods. But now, technology has changed that. Every person entering is scanned carefully. Every identity is checked. Fingerprints. Photos. Records. Because many suspects once gave false names when they were arrested. But now, their true identities can be found quickly. This is a low moment in the story. Calm, detailed, controlled. But full of quiet tension. Because behind all these systems are real people. And real consequences. As the narrator walks deeper inside, another process begins. This time, it is about the prisoners. New arrivals are brought in from different parts of the country. They arrive in buses. They are searched multiple times. Then they are given identical white clothing. No personal items. No individuality. Just part of the system now. Names are called. One by one, they enter. And once they enter, they do not leave. The guards make it clear. There are no visiting days. No contact with family. Because in the past, communication from inside prisons allowed crimes to continue outside. CECOT was built to stop that. To break the connection. To end the cycle. But as the narrator walks further, the reality becomes more visible. Rows of cells. Each one holding large groups of prisoners. Some reports say each cell can hold dozens of individuals at once. There are no mattresses. Only metal bunk beds. Meals are simple. Strictly controlled. Everything here follows a rule. Prisoners eat together. They clean their plates. They shower in shared spaces. There is no privacy. No comfort. This is not designed to be comfortable. It is designed to be controlled. Another high moment begins. The narrator is shown how prisoners are moved. When they leave their cells, they are restrained. Their hands. Their feet. Everything is secured to prevent sudden movement. The guards explain that this is necessary because of the seriousness of the crimes committed by many inmates. Inside this system, safety is enforced through strict measures. But as the camera moves, another side of the prison is revealed. The guards themselves. They live here too, during long shifts. They rest in dormitories inside the prison. They train. They exercise. Because their job is not easy. They must stay alert at all times. Strong, both physically and mentally. There are gyms inside for them. Spaces to prepare. Because controlling a place like this requires discipline. Outside, the prison is surrounded by massive walls. About 9 meters high. With fences and watchtowers placed at regular distances. Guards stand above, watching everything below. The system is designed so that even if one part fails, another part continues. Electricity comes from multiple sources. Water is stored in large tanks. The prison can continue operating even during emergencies. Everything has been planned. Carefully. Step by step. Then the narrator is shown something else. Equipment. Prepared for worst-case situations. If a riot happens. If control is lost. There are tools ready. Protective gear. Special equipment. Because in a place like this, even a small mistake can lead to danger. This is another high point. A reminder that even in control, risk still exists. But then, the story slows again. The narrator walks toward another section. A darker one. Isolation cells. These are small, enclosed spaces. Very little light. Very little comfort. Just a basic structure. These are used for discipline. Or for extreme cases. The atmosphere changes here. It feels heavier. Quieter. Even the air feels still. And standing there, one thought comes to mind. What does it feel like to stay here, for days? Or longer? The camera moves back. Returning to the main sections. Prisoners are seen standing in lines. Facing walls. Waiting. They do not speak. They do not move. Until they are told. Then they are moved back into their cells. Everything is controlled. Even medical care happens differently here. Doctors do not have close contact. Prisoners remain at a distance. For safety. Because no risk is taken lightly. This is not just a prison. It is a system built from lessons of the past. From years of violence. From years of fear. And now, it stands as a response. But as the narrator looks around, another question begins to grow. What happens to people inside this system over time? Do they change? Do they understand? Or do they simply exist within these walls? And outside the prison, life in El Salvador continues. People walk the streets more freely now. Crime rates have dropped. The country is quieter. Safer, some would say. But the story is not finished. Because behind every system, there are choices and consequences. And as we move closer to the final part of this story, we begin to see not just the prison, but the impact it has had on an entire nation.